In June of 2023, a family claimed that large creatures had landed in their yard, and the craziest part is they had video proof. Between eyewitness accounts from the family and local police, plus corroboration from neighbors, the footage that quickly went viral didn't seem to just be a teen trying to get famous on the internet. But are we really seeing an extraterrestrial creature behind their fence? What really happened that fateful night of the alleged UFO crash? We'll go over the details about the night of the event, what happened in the aftermath, and John's remote viewing data that nobody else has added to the bigger picture of the Las Vegas alien sighting. So join me, Rob Counts, and John Vivanco for a metaphysical show that's going to be out of this world.
And if you are listening to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, leaving us that 5-star rating and review, it really, really helps us, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you, and thank you for watching.
John, how you doing?
Hey,
dude.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Right. What's going on here?
Yeah. This is our first. It's our first podcast in the same room together.
Yep. Even though you can't really tell.
Yeah.
But here, look, you can see me on like Rob's side over there.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. John and I are going to do a little expedition. And we're going to see what we can do to try to get some cool footage out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some weird stuff that we're gonna go after and check out. So
in the wilds of Washington, actually, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So make sure that you stay tuned for this, because things are gonna get weird out here. I mean, it's not gonna be live for you, but it's gonna be something later on.
For sure, yeah. Definitely. But today we're gonna be talking about this Las Vegas UFO or alien sighting, which was really bizarre. And for those of you at home that don't know what happened, in June of 2023, a family in Las Vegas claimed that an unidentified object fell from the sky into their backyard, and then two large figures were in their backyard shortly afterwards. They even got video footage. Interestingly, police in the area also saw something fall from the sky, and the police redacted body cam footage from the backyard since it was considered private property. But the family has footage of themselves walking in the backyard past what looks like a creature behind their fence.
Yeah, but when do police redact footage if it's on private property when it's in the public interest? Does that actually happen? Do they do that? I don't know if that's a thing or not, so that's why I raised this question.
I think they would use probably any excuse to get actual footage of something this bizarre redacted, right? I mean, you could use any excuse under the sky to get that to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole, it's like, okay, it's kind of like, well, I don't know if we should go into this, but it is kind of like the Hurricane Helene thing and people going to try and help people on the ground and following the Good Samaritan law,
right?
Like, because it's in the public interest. It seems like anything that's taken with a body cam is within the public interest when there's an incident that occurs, and it should be accessible to the public. So I don't necessarily believe like that is the thing.
I mean,
that's weird. I think it's weird to me. I don't know.
I totally agree with you. I'm just thinking if there was actual body cam footage of aliens on camera, somebody in the higher ups,
redacted.
somebody is.
No, that's true. I mean, good point.
What can you do about that, really? Yeah, so there's a teen who lives at the house, and he said that one of the creatures was actually growling at them. A neighbor said his TV suddenly stopped working on the night of the event, and the official investigation was closed a few days later. So they just closed it all down. Okay, initial reactions. You've seen the footage. What do you think about all of this?
Well, I thought it was fascinating from the start with the police and the body cam footage, because the body cam footage that we did get to see was something streaking through the sky, and it was greenish and coming down in the vicinity, right? And there were reports, people were saying there was a meteor or something that was coming down all across the area. And of course, when something is coming down across the sky, it's coming from abroad, but you're going to see it probably on, midway in the Midwest as it's coming through. So people saw it. The police got it on body cam, and then immediately after, like, these people call the police and say there's a spaceship and aliens in our backyard, right?
Yeah.
So the police, like, if you look at the footage, like, when it gets, there are some initial things of the police interacting.
Like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
Because I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard? Or?
And the police sound very serious. They're not like, they're like, okay, where is it? Where did you see it? Because they had seen that thing in the sky beforehand. So, I mean, to me, that's interesting. But see, like, here's the really cool thing about this is that think about over the last, since 1960s, even earlier, the way that the news media treated UFO phenomena. I mean, think about that, like, expanse of time where any report coming out of the news media was literally making fun of UFOs and people who believe in UFOs. Everything was to make fun of it.
Yeah, or any sighting, right? Like even a sighting, they would just totally make fun of it. It'd be on like local news somewhere in some small town, and they'd be joking around about it.
Right. And so if you took this incident and you placed it like 5-6 years ago, well, like 10 years ago, let's say, it would just be a joke. It would be a massive joke. It would only get this much airplay, and that's it. When this thing happened, because of the Pentagon Tic Tac videos being released and all the talk and the congressional hearings, this thing like rose to the surface. And here's the thing that most people don't understand. This stuff happens more frequently than you can possibly imagine.
Right.
Right. And the news media, the local media in Las Vegas, more so took it very seriously. And so they had George Knapp, long-time UFO investigator, investigating this particular sighting and treating it like in these long segments very legitimately, which I found absolutely fascinating. So there's like this turn where, and this is what's interesting about this case, I think. I mean, to me, we've looked at so many of these things that it becomes more mundane. But the interesting thing to me is the way the media is treating it now. Right? They want people to believe in UFOs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but this is so strange in that we don't usually, there's a UFO sighting. Sure. You see a bunch of videos almost every week where there's a UFO sighting and people are freaking out about what they saw in the sky. On Instagram, on TikTok, anywhere. There's tons of reports of this stuff. When do we actually see an alien freaking running through someone's backyard? That kind of footage does not exist very often.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been involved in cases that were never public on incidences throughout California, especially. Where the people have gotten photographs of aliens. I've seen photographs of aliens that are legitimate, but they've never been publicized. Right. So for me, like, pull back a little bit. Like for me, it's like it becomes more mundane, even though they caught it on video. But to the average person, I think it's like, this is like one of those things. Like it's like second base. First base was UFOs exist. Second base is aliens exist. Here's a video. Right. I've been sitting on third base for a long time, right? And third base would be more interaction.
Sure.
Right.
More interaction or direct interaction, which is a home run, basically.
Right.
So you definitely a home run hitter.
And it has to do a lot with remote viewing because remote viewing, it's interaction through remote viewing and then interaction because of the remote viewing, which actually can suck because of you often will be looking at things that are a curiosity, like, what was that one about? Where's the closest UFO base to me? Like, that's always a dangerous one because inevitably those things notice that you're there. And if they're on the negative side, then you get visited. So that's not fun. Right. And so most people would think, that's too crazy for me to even posit as a reality. Right.
You mean that aliens
are here
and exist. Now, one of the things I thought was interesting about this particular footage, I kind of want to know what you think about it, is that these weren't little grays. This was
tall,
like something really tall and big in their backyard, kind of coming into the scene. You remember that footage, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure we're showing it nonstop here right now for you guys at home, but that was weird because now you're like, well, the next question is, what species was this? I mean, like, and it was kind of like a shadow person / could have been an alien thing.
Right.
Was it wearing some type of gear that would sort of camouflage it on camera or something like that? I mean,
well, look, it's like, yeah, the predator thing, right? I
right.
mean, we've been talking about that recently, the whole predator idea.
Yes, we're actually going to do a show on that sometime soon. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I wouldn't think it would be too much different than the way the craft can be stealth, whatever. So I think it's the same. I think it would be the same general idea, the same, but yet with the body of the subject. But then, the other side too is like how much, because we often see these things as being slightly paraphysical, or they cross dimensional constructs. So can these beings exist like in a third dimensional construct and some other dimensional construct where they could just sort of turn ghostly, right? So there's that idea too. Or is it purely technology?
Right.
That's always, like, that's a big question for a lot of people. But and there's a variation, as far as I've seen, with different types of beings and different types of stealth mechanisms, where some beings can just, it seems like, slip into the upside down to disappear, whereas others, and we find, and I honestly think that this is sort of a
interdimensional being, or
no, I feel like there is a an evolutionary thing with some cryptid type creatures where their evolution on self-preservation has allowed them to be able to slip into another dimensional realm, right? Self-preservation,
right.
or for hunting, right? Slip in there and then pop out when you're going to jump on something. I mean, that's pretty scary.
That is the thing of nightmares right there. That's terrifying.
But that's some of the stuff we've seen with some of these cryptids, especially when you get to the idea of what people call the rake, which is based off of the ghoul, the forest ghoul.
So that's really interesting. You just brought in the rake to this whole conversation, and the rake is known to be what you just said. It's like almost like a forest demon,
right? That
is extreme. I mean, this thing feeds on human flesh, is like the legend, and actually, Dogman fights this thing. There are things in the forest that fight this thing. I mean, it's a very fun kind of like idea, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking about it in context of these bizarre aliens that just showed up in Las Vegas. So do you think that there's some type of connection here to aliens and cryptids somehow? Or
well, I mean, I guess I was just like talking about the various things that we've seen. And a lot of times when we see this stuff, we want to know if it's tech,
right,
or if it is because it's sort of a biological function of the being, or interdimensional function.
So how people think Bigfoot can cross into dimension, or affect time or something with its movement or whatever it is, right?
So for these things, it looked to be more of a technology type situation that appears magical to us.
Right. So predator type technology that we're talking about that can affect things. So we actually do have some data on what the people in the backyard who saw this creature, or in that yard who saw this creature, looked like. They claimed that the creatures were about 8 to 10 feet tall, and that they had a greenish color. So the teenager actually said,
so when I saw it, it was a tall, skinny, lengthy creature. He was a gray, greenish color. And when I looked at it in the eyes, my body just froze. Like the same experience as having sleep paralysis.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
That's totally fascinating.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only creatures that sound like this are these claims of these reptilian beings, which is a pretty funny concept that people have made funny, but that actually a lot of people end up believing really exists. The other one that I remember hearing about more recently were these bizarre creatures showing up in Peru, getting off on these like jet packs or whatever they are. And then, the Peruvians are fighting these people or these beings, and no one believes them. And it kind of was like a funny thing almost in pop culture for a few weeks, where everyone was talking about these crazy creatures on jetpacks down in Peru. Do you think that there may be a connection to this type of thing?
I mean, that's an interesting idea. There is the same feeling with and sort of like a look. They've got technology,
Yeah,
but it's not like it might be, a couple hundred years ahead of us. It's not like 1,000 years. That's what it was looking like in the data. I mean, we haven't even gone into the data yet. I'm just like picking out little pieces to respond to your conversation. But,
sure.
but there is the same kind of feeling with the, even though we haven't looked very much at the Peru ones, there's the same kind of feeling, same kind of almost low high tech. I mean, as far as we're concerned, because we look at this stuff all the time.
Low high tech.
Right. So it's like there's the same vibration, same feeling, but the thing is that, and we'll get into this in a bit, there are different races of the same thing on the planet that we're going into here.
Wait, do you mean on our planet?
On our planet.
So there are different races
of the same
being.
Yeah. Different the variations of it.
Almost like they're from a different country, but it's still a human being kind of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. So there was just a little bit more peripheral information here to the greater story before we start getting into what John and his team actually saw and found when they remote viewed this whole situation, for those of you at home. Yeah, so the teen who reported the original sighting says that their family has encountered other strange things at their house, including a cross floating in the air and the pages of a Bible flipping over in a room with no breeze. So he said this a year later on the news, but that I guess he's trying to put together what's going on and why all of this is happening in this situation or in around his house. Like, is it that his house is a paranormal hotspot? It's bringing in or a portal for all of these types of things. I'm not really sure, but why don't you, what do you think first of all about that? And then what happened here, John?
I think, I don't know how they can correlate poltergeist type activity to, I know that they initially thought that they were demons, right? That was like out of the gate. They thought they were demons, dark beings.
What did the priest say when they actually came to your house?
They're saying that it might be fallen angels, like demons or fallen angels, something like that.
Fallen angels inside your home.
Yeah.
And they're very religious. And so they could be just generating the energy themselves,
right?
Sort of like in this sort of tulpa, egregore kind of fashion.
And there's that fear there and that
fear
belief
and all
in
that. I don't know. We haven't looked at that.
Right.
Who knows what's going on? I don't think it would be related to this personally, because this was more cut and dried in the data. What you see in the beginning with the police video was this, it was a craft. It was an actual ship. And these beings were having problems with it. So in this particular ship, every biological being in it is connected into the ship, like through their feet, like through their hands.
It's like a biotech.
Yeah.
A tech that actually combines, or it's all like Bluetooth for your body almost,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it's like every surface that you touch, like you're connected to this ship. And there is a pilot of the ship, and the pilot has a brain interface connection as well, but the others don't necessarily have that, right? So as this ship was moving at a certain clip through the atmosphere, or not necessarily like coming from deep space at all, but coming from another area of the Earth, going up and then coming back in, there was some kind of electromagnetic disturbance. And the mechanism between the brain of the subject that was flying and the ship became disconnected, right? So it became disconnected. Things got very wobbly, and the ship started to like lose aspects of its gravitational system. It started to lose aspects of its protection system. And so because of the speed and immense heat that was being formed with the speed, it started to melt aspects of the ship. So burn aspects of the ship. Okay. And so that's when you see the police and this thing falling, this green thing falling, and what people saw. And then obviously these people call the police later because this craft literally landed in the backyard of these people's neighborhood in order to take care of the problem, right? They had to land fast, right? They had a hole in the ship, basically, or a hole in one of the in an engine type situation, because we're not talking about super esoteric stuff. We're talking about a certain type of anti-gravity drive, right?
It's sort of like us having an engine, and you're on this. You basically like have the check engine light comes on.
Right.
You have to pull over on the side of the road.
Right.
Except they're in the air and they crash landed.
Right.
But this, like, my question is, and probably other people at home are thinking about this, is if they have technology that's advanced enough to even connect your biology in with a ship, why aren't there processes in place or protections in place to guard against from your brain or your body having a disconnect with the engine?
Like it should have some kind of AI mechanism that takes over, or autopilot or something. No, it just seemed like
something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. I have no idea, but the data was very specific on that disconnection and the trouble that the ship was going through at that moment, because there was some kind of electromagnetic disturbance in the atmosphere.
Oh, so they were up against some things that were in the atmosphere that were going against them, and this is what caused the problem with the ship.
Right. Something natural knocked out aspects of their navigation system, the way the ship would enter certain areas, even like reducing the effect of an anti-gravity type engine or drive, and then disconnecting the whole apparatus from the brain of the subject who is actually piloting the craft. So that's the path the data went down, right? And this EM aberration was natural, seemed to be natural as opposed to something artificial. But yeah, I mean, you'd think that you'd have this AI take over or something in order to keep things stable and safe, or at least just like hover it in space. But it would seem like more of a catastrophic type failure than anything else. And so when these things went down, it almost seems like one of them might have gotten hurt. And we've got like 3 to 4 of them.
So one of the aliens ended up getting hurt from the crash.
Right.
And caused a bit of commotion.
Right. It didn't hit hard. They were able to regain control. but because of the hole in the ship or something, in the engine or something, they had to move it down fast to the ground. And so they were able to get a soft landing. And that was like the only place they could land. So once they land there, you've got, 3 to 4 of them, and they have to protect the ship from view. And so that's where the technology comes in.
I see. Because like my next question is, how did nobody find this ship?
Right.
Did they fly out of there? Did they get it fixed up? Like what happened? You know what I mean? All right, we need to stop here. But if you guys want to watch the extended cut of this episode with a whole lot more info on the remote viewing data, whether pigs might be hybrids, reptilian overlords, and space races, and you can subscribe to the metaphysical.tv. Your support gets you additional full episodes. It also lets us make more content and even go on expeditions, make documentaries, and stuff that you're actually going to see pretty soon.